see the vibration.
On n'est jamais d'accord. Quand on fait la loi, faut pas faire la loi.
Bonne lunette, je vois ce que tu vois.
On est bon, on est.
Ah, c'est sharp. The best thing to take a bit.
It's like 2 a.m. right now, and I feel like every like 4 or 3 months or so, I have a luteal phase where I just, for 2 or 3 days, I can't really sleep. I'm up super late, and yeah, I'm in New York right now. I think I'm recording this because time passes, and because this will be a distant memory, and I'll forget that I even had trouble sleeping, like, probably in like 3 days. But I want to record this so I remember that things come and go, and every moment is holy in its own way. October 23rd. Almost November. Rent needs to be paid again. Still don't have a job, talking to one. Today in the apartment there was this wild and mystical energy. I felt like I was seeing it with new eyes. It's a really warm day today, warm like summer in the sun. I'm so excited for Audrey to get home. They left me the loveliest note. I love this little oasis of an apartment that we've created for ourselves. The street is so beautiful. Feeling inspired, thinking about my pride, how I was so calculating how much I was owed and what I was above or below, that I didn't want to beg. I think pride really is my deadly sin. But I don't know, things feel new today. It feels like I could start all over again. I don't need to know how. I just gotta love what I love and start walking in a direction, any direction, and see where it takes me. About 6 years of journals. This journal was when I was traveling in Spain, and I had such a strong crush on this person. It was so brutal. I'm writing here. I've been wandering around Granada, fastening myself to yearning like it was my North Star, like it was my true north. I don't know where to put this desire. I want him. I really want him. Maybe this is the long game. Maybe there's more here. Maybe it's a slow burn. This is like an excruciating period of time. But I also felt really, really alive. It's interesting too, when you want something, how you try to like create the story in real time. Like you're like, maybe it's the long game. Maybe it'll be a slow burn. Like maybe it'll happen like this. Maybe it'll happen like that. And at its best, I feel like it's just like a little bit of harmless fantasizing about possibilities. And at its worst, it can really drive you crazy because there's no story in the present moment. And trying to figure out the story will drive you insane. Said, I'm in these beautiful palaces, and all I can think is how I want you to be mine. Maybe it's just the idea of you. Maybe I can be okay with friends for now, but I wonder if you want me to. Okay. We're still in the bath, but we're back. This journal was during COVID, like 2020, 2021, and I was 21, 22, no, 2021, I mean. Yeah, it's funny because I feel like throughout all these journals, I can really see a lot of my like neuroses, and these ones were the most neurotic of them all. Like, I think I was just in a period of time where I really was focusing on my spirituality and my like manifestation, and I was like really invested in like discipline and was like waking up at 7 a.m. every day and like doing yoga every single day. And okay, my phone ran out of storage, and so I like deleted like 7,000 photos. I'm not even kidding, like photos from like 4 years ago. And it started off like just like being logistical. Like I was like, okay, I just need to delete some photos. But then I was just like looking at all these photos I had on my phone, and I was just like, I don't need any of this shit. Like I don't want any of this. So I ended up deleting like literally all my photos. And it felt like when Devendra Barnhart was like burned all his journals. That's how it felt. Except I'm not gonna burn my journals. I love my journals. Anyways, so I deleted all those photos, and I got depressed. And I ate dinner, and I watched Lost in Translation, which really felt cathartic. And now I'm back. So yeah, I was talking about this journal, and my neuroses. Yeah, I was, I'm like trying to remember where I was at. I was like in a period of time where I was like really just like very focused on like spiritual discipline. Like I was like meditating and like waking up at 7 a.m. every day and doing yoga. And because like of the pandemic and everything, it really felt like there was like no distractions. Like I was like, I just need to focus on like healing and like being the best version of myself and being holy, you know? And it was interesting because it was like the more that I like was doing that, the more like anxious and isolated I felt. And I just couldn't understand it. And I was thinking about Safe lately, the film Safe by Todd Haynes, and how it's about this rich white woman who starts getting sick from like environmental illnesses. Like, it's not really specified what these environmental illnesses are. It's kind of like she just describes it as like chemicals and like toxins in the air. And she continues to kind of throughout the film try to protect herself and protect, like, I guess like the sanctity of the self and the purity of herself throughout the film. And she isolates herself more and more. She like ends up in this like new agey retreat center. It's like kind of like culty retreat center in New Mexico for people with environmental illnesses. And she continues to isolate herself. And over the course of the film, the more she's sort of like protecting herself against these environmental illnesses, the sicker and sicker she gets. Like, it's like she's on this like route supposedly towards healing, but you see her over the course of the film continue to get sicker and sicker and sicker and sicker until at the very end of the film there's this crazy scene where she's like in this isolated, kind of very sterile, essentially like pod or like tank. I'm gonna like put videos or photos in this retreat center in New Mexico. And this like pod is for people who are like very severely like ill from environmental illnesses. And she's in this pod and she's staring at this mirror in this pod and she's looking at herself. And Julianne Moore, who plays her, is like, she's very, her face is so sunken and there's just like these big bags under her eyes and she looks so sick. And she's like staring at the mirror and she's like saying to herself, I love you, I love you, I love you, I love you. And it's so haunting, and is really what I feel like a lot of people look like sometimes on like TikTok and stuff, or like on the internet, like version of, I guess, supposedly self-love, like the sense of like protecting your peace almost that people talk about on TikTok, or like this whole sort of like healing, self-healing moment that we've been in, this wellness moment that we've been in, and are kind of like slowly starting to leave. It looks like that. Like, it looks as neurotic as like people just staring in the mirror and being like, I love you, I love you, I love you, and just like looking super sick and ill. And it's just, there was so much there. And I think at the time when I watched it, I felt really connected to it, but I also didn't like feel like I had the words to articulate how I felt connected to that and that moment, where it felt like that's what I was doing, right? Like, I felt like I was just like standing there looking in the mirror being like, I love you, I love you, I love you. Like, I'm on my healing journey. I'm like self-love, you know? And I didn't feel love. I felt lonely and isolated and apart from the world, outside of the world, you know, in some ways. And in many ways, like, that, isolation definitely like resonated in relation to the pandemic and stuff, but also just this like particular form of wellness, you know? This wellness that is like almost like obsessed with the purity of the self, right? Like that there is this pure, sanctimonious, I don't know, the pure sanctity of the self, right? Where there's this pure self that you have to get back to and that you have to protect at all costs, you know? And it's like when I see like TikToks of people being like, I protected my peace too hard and now I don't have any friends. And that's just it, you know? It's just really sad. And we've been slowly seeing this like movement out of wellness culture, right? Like people are smoking cigarettes again, and people are just kind of pushing up against this hyper wellness, hyper, I don't know, protect your peace moment that we've all been in, because it's not true and it doesn't work. The more I was trying to heal and protect my peace and treating myself as this like really precious thing, like this precious object, you know, the more lonely and isolated and apart from myself I felt, you know. I was being good, you know, I was trying to be good, I was trying to be holy, but it wasn't honest to how I was feeling. And goodness, or working towards any moral righteousness, spiritual, I guess, righteousness, if it's not honest, it's not true. And if it's not true, it won't get you free. It won't free you. It won't get you anywhere close to freedom, you know? Which I feel like is ultimately what any path to God is. It's about freedom and love. And I think there's just like this big moment that I see culturally, but also just like personally, of realizing that that does not get us free. Trying to be good, trying to be pure, protecting ourselves as if we are this like precious little thing that needs to be protected. And if we don't, like, it doesn't get us free. It's, I keep saying that conflict is part of the reason like why we're here, like here on earth, because conflict is about being in relation, you know? It's about being in relation, like in unity within the context of division and separation and difference, you know? That's what conflict is, especially if you're choosing to be in conflict. And this notion of like protecting your peace at all costs does not even consider that not only are humans relational and social creatures, but also that's a part of being alive. That's also a part of the reason why I believe we came here in some ways, you know, to work something out with each other, you know, to step away from oneness into separation, into difference, and to find both unity but separation and friction and conflict within that, you know? And you get nowhere by protecting yourself and treating yourself as super precious. And of course, you know, like there is value in valuing yourself and always having your own back and being your best friend, so to speak. But that doesn't mean that you're this pure thing, you know? This pure, perfect thing. You're innocent, but you're not pure. And yeah, I mean, going back to Safe, it was just like, that film in so many ways is like so ahead of its time, because it's very much talking about its own cultural moment, right? Like it's based in the 80s in LA, so it's like really centralized around like the AIDS crisis, like even just like whiteness, you know, in LA. And there's this like one scene, maybe I'll put it in, where Julianne Moore's son is like reading this like school paper that he wrote, and it's basically about like the invasion of the LA hills by like black and brown gangs, you know? And that was such an interesting scene because it was like putting that, the purity of whiteness, like this notion of the purity of whiteness that can be invaded, into the conversation of the purity of the body and the purity of the self that is going to be invaded by these like toxic chemicals, you know? And I love that parallel because it's the same thing, right? It's like, that's, I feel like, one of whiteness's, like, that's like one of its things, you know, believing in this like purity, this sense of purity, you know? And it's just not the truth. Like it's just like not the truth of what life is. Nothing is pure, you know? Nothing is pure. Things are so much more messy and complicated. Yeah. But anyways, in this journal, it's just like so interesting to read because the amount of times too that I just like keep saying like, I'm so grateful, like I'm so grateful, I'm so grateful. Like gratitude is like amazing and lovely if it's true. Gratitude is amazing and lovely if it's the truth. But it's funny to see how I was writing because I know how I was feeling at the time. Like I know how I was feeling at the time, and it just wasn't true, you know? Like it's almost like it was almost like I was saying, oh, I'm so grateful, just like because that's what you're supposed to do, or that's what you're supposed to say, you know what I mean? And now it's like I say thank you so much in my life, and I genuinely, you know, feel so grateful in my life, but I only want to say it when it's true. It's all about the intention behind it, you know? And if the intention to practice gratitude in my life is to be good, to be holy, then I don't want it. If it isn't completely based in truth and honesty, then I don't want it. Yeah. Anyways, just going through these journals as you do when you're at your parents' house. How has Pluto leaving Capricorn been for you guys? It's been crazy for me. I was really in, you know, like a manifesting moment. I'm just like reading here. This is like my new moon manifestations that I wrote It's like May 2021. And they're very sweet, you know, like I like, yeah, like I think it's super cool. But I feel like, I guess what I mean is like, it almost like feels like, it's like this. Like that's the energy of it, right? It's like this. Like it feels like very controlling, you know? And the energy it reminds me of, like the way I'm like writing out these like manifestations is like, you know, those like TikTok videos that are like, I don't know, like say some like, you'll find the love of your life, or like you have your dream home, or like blah blah blah, whatever, money something. And then it's like claim, like and like comment within the first 5 minutes to claim, or like something like that. And then you'll have like, or it says like repost a claim, and then people will like be in the comments and be like, claim completely with positive energy, without repost, claim like claim